for me, man, I was like, what's in Eddie? What's in Eddie's garage, dude? Like, what does he got there? And he's like, he's got this picture from Del Mar. He's doing the look back, and of course, I'm like, does he have the helmet? Like, does he have the helmet? And he's like, he goes, he's got helmets he still uses. And I was like, dude, this is incredible.
Let's see. See this helmet right around there, the red one?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was yellow.
Oh, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah, and then there's actually a yellow one there that I had, and that I think that went to Germany and France and England and things. But I didn't keep a whole lot of stuff. I mean, like, I didn't know eBay was going to be around. I didn't know, all this stuff was worth any money. And the thing is that, we were sponsored back in the day, and we used shopping carts to go get stuff. So they literally, if my bike was dirty or scratched or anything, that GT gave me another bike. And they didn't want the old one back. So my neighbors had bikes, my cousins had bikes, just had everything under the sun. And, it was a great sponsorship. And throughout the years, it's like, I don't need another bike.
Welcome everybody to Big Bike BMX. Craig and I are absolutely thrilled tonight because we have probably one of my favorite riders ever in the entire world. He's your favorite rider too. You know him when you see him riding. You know the style. Craig, can you believe this is happening?
Dude, I'm going to tell you this. When we came up with the list of dream list of guys we wanted on the show, you know who was right at the top of my list. And without further ado, Isaac, let's not keep listening to me. Let's introduce this guest right now.
All right, everybody, it is my honor to introduce you to your favorite rider, Mr. Eddie Fiola. What's up, Eddie?
Not much, just hanging out inside the garage and just doing it, having fun.
I mean, and it's a famous garage. Like, we just talked to John Bolchins a couple weeks ago, and he talked about your garage. He talked about the bins. He talked about how cool it is, that it's a 5-car garage, that it's literally just full of rad stuff. So it's an honor to see this.
It's got some stuff in there. I mean, like, I've got all my stunt gear. I've got my motorcycles. I've got my tools. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of one, which is my bike, and just got a bunch of stuff. I mean, and I'm working on things all the time. So I just like to, it's one of those things that I don't think anything is broken until I can't fix it. So
one of the things, like when we had John on the show, Eddie, I guess he was over at a function at your house, and when he brought up your name, the first thing he talked about, he goes, "You have to see Eddie's garage." And he was talking like a kid in the candy store. He was talking about how it's so cool for him to have his friends as his heroes, but he couldn't stop with the garage thing. And so we were like, I got to see the garage. So the fact that you're sitting in there right now is kind of like a takeoff and continuation from John's excitement. So we're excited. Thanks for being in the garage.
Should I do a quick walkthrough and then we'll do the interview? Let's see if I can unplug this stereo so that I can walk in. All right, so garage. We've got helmets from way back when. Helmets. We've got toolboxes, like he said, toolboxes. More toolboxes. So one is a metric toolbox. One is a American toolbox, and then we've got this poster up here, which is the old pipeline. We've got some snowboards. We've got walking in here, we've got Skate City. I mean, all horror stuff. We've got some kind of, the light is weird, just some stuff. Let's see, old GT posters, a rad poster. We've got a little wall of shame. I've got some stuff from Europe where we did some tours. This is a real wall of shame. Watch this one. Where am I at? Oh yeah, I am Purdy. This is Walker Texas Ranger I worked on. This is what is that one? That's Clock Stoppers. This is Dusk Till Dawn Part 2. I got blown up. Where is it at? Trying to find. This is before Tiger King or something like that. Anyhow, that's just some of the stuff in the garage.
That is absolutely phenomenal to see that, especially after hearing John talk about it. To see that stuff is incredible, and to see all that stunt work absolutely blows my mind. I mean, that's just incredible. So, just starting out like with your early years that we grew up watching you, we had like the Mohawk helmet. I have to ask this, like, did you have any idea that would be such a big iconic thing when you were sitting around? Did you just sit around like, man, I have all these stickers, let's make a Mohawk? Or
well, what made me think of the Mohawk helmet was there was like a Hawaiian god or a Hawaiian tribe that actually had this big huge Mohawk on their helmets, and I just thought it was so cool looking. And then with the Star Wars coming out and the Stormtroopers and the full face helmet, the Mohawk just added it to it, and I was, I'm a freestyler, but I'm an entertainer. So I like to entertain and have fun. And so as long as I was making people smile, I was doing the right job.
Yeah. It seemed like Eddie, if you go back and watch videos from the freestyle days, a lot of your videos, it seemed like you were one of the more charismatic guys where you'd give that cameraman a little, like if you were doing just an air out of the pool, you'd give him that, you would do this head whip and look back or give him a wink or a shot. Your look back airs always had like a hand out, like pointing, that was one of the things like when I was growing up, and me and Isaac have talked before, where I would go to the grocery store with my mom and flip open a BMX Action or Plus magazine, and you would be in it. Your shots were always captured with some flair. So there was charisma there. You were an exciting, and still are. I don't mean that you're not anymore, but just the way that you carried yourself was so like extra than certain other riders. You just added that little flair to it.
Right. Well, we a lot of the guys that I used to hang around with, we used to call, oh, he's got Elvis, or he's, not, nothing bad, but I mean, like also, the Michael Jackson, where it has some flair to it, and just, it's a showmanship thing, where it's not the circus, but we're having fun.
Yeah, I mean, even like obviously, King of the Skate Parks and your Flatland are two different kind of arenas. You really showed the flair in Flatland. So of course, the moonwalk that you do, I don't know what you named that trick, but that was always one of the ones where I was like, dude, that's so dope. That looks so cool. So yeah, I mean, it was just something always exciting to watch how you came across, your charisma, the way you showed yourself. It just like seemed like a different level.
Right. And some of the times, where, in the contest, and it's I went to the contest not thinking it was a contest, but like a family reunion, and where everybody got together and we got to ride, where a lot of the guys that would ride really well when we're in the circle and playing around, but when they got into the competition and they're actually getting judged on, that light switch hit and they started touching down and not making tricks, where this is where I went in and just said, hey, this is just another show and I'm going to have some fun. If I touched down, I didn't get upset. I just had fun, or I made it into something else, or, the thing is also, it's not about how hard the trick is, it's how you can make it look. Like the moonwalk is really an easy trick, but not a whole lot of guys can do it, and it adds a flair.
100%. I mean, the thing about it is like, and it's always just kind of blown me away is when you talked about showmanship, and watching as a young kid, watching you ride, there was never a time it looked like you weren't having more fun than every single person there. And it's like that dude just does not have like a bad moment. And so even if you touched, you're like, like you'd see someone else touch and, you kind of see him shake their head or try and walk it off. And like, you would flip it the other way. And I'm like, that, like now looking as a grown man, I'm like, that is some great psychology for those judges, because they're going to have fun watching you. They're not going to be thinking about like, oh, he touched or dabbed or whatever we called it back then. And
Right.
they're having as much fun as you are. And then, you walk away and it's just kind of like, yeah, nailed it. It's what we all, watched. But my other thing, the other quick question I wanted to get out is, you still ride with Martin. Like you grew up with Martin. It looks like you guys still ride quite often in the beach down in Huntington, right?
Right. So what's funny is that, 30 years ago, we used to go down to Huntington Beach and we used to throw out a hat and we used to do this flatland and we made some lunch money here and there. And now 35 years, 40 years later, we're out doing it again. We're just not throwing out the hat. We're just having a lot of fun. What's funny is that we have people showing up on Tuesdays because people know that we're there on Tuesdays from, different parts of the country. And they're just going, hey, I plan my weekend around a Tuesday in Huntington Beach. So
it's funny. So I live in Phoenix, man, and I was telling my wife the same thing. I'm like, babe, next time we go down, because she has family that's in Southern California. I was like, hey, on Tuesday, I'm going to Huntington Beach. So that's funny you would say that, because like that would just be incredible to do. But I mean, what a cool thing to be able to say, man, I still ride with my buddy. Like, when I was growing up, I still talk to my friends. Thank God for social media. But we don't ride together. And so what a cool thing that you get to say like, hey man, I still get to ride with, my friends that I grew up with and started in this industry with.
Oh yeah. And I still see, guys every once in a while. I just saw Scotty Freeman not too long ago. I actually rode with Tony Murray just the other day at the skate park. And we just have fun. I talked to Brian Skura last month and it's great. And this social media just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. And, one of the things that Isaac and I talk about all the time, Eddie, is, bikes are the connection point, but the friendships and the, it's all about keeping connection with people, having that. Bikes bring us together, but the relationships and the friendships that we make, the bonds that we create, can last a lifetime. And I'm 47 years old. I've been riding since I was about 6 or 7. I won't say I was doing anything great when I was that young or even now today, but I've been on bikes or skateboards or 2 wheels, motocross, whatever it might be. And the people, the best memories I have are with the people. I mean, I couldn't say that I had anything greater than riding with friends. Like you have all your buddies from all those years, Brian and Martin and Scotty and probably a whole bunch of other folks. So, I mean, 35, 40, how long have you known? I mean, like Martin was on set with you on Rad, right? But you knew him before that, right?
I think from Gail. Yeah, from Gail.
We're definitely teammates. And Gail Webb. I mean, so there was, I'm not going to say an A and B team. There was 2 teams, and Martin was part of one team, and then I was part of another team, and myself and let's say Adam Jung went on tour someplace, and then Martin and Josh White went on tour somewhere else, and we just mixed it up. And GT was smart about that, about getting the most out of their money that they were paying for the guys and getting them out there and getting the exposure and selling bikes. And that's what they did. And they did a great job of it.
Yeah, that's funny because today I posted a picture of you on my Instagram at the Knott's Berry Farm Gail Webb show.
Right.
How were those times, man? What memories does that bring back for you? Because you've traveled all over the world over the years and probably still do. I'm guessing I've seen some videos of you overseas, but when you look back to like Gail Webb, Knott's Berry Farm, and the demos and tours that you did, tell us a little bit about that and some of the times that you cherished from that
you
time.
would not believe. I mean, so Gail was actually one of the very first shows that I've ever done, and she literally came to me. Somebody had told her about me riding Lakewood Skate Park. And this lady was doing the very first extreme shows, and she already had a bicycle rider in there, but he wasn't able to do it. He either got hurt or something. His name was Fred Becker. And she had Fred Blood on roller skates, and she had Mike Smith on a skateboard. And then she contacted me and came over to my house and asked my mom if I could go and ride in her shows, and she was going to pay me and feed me. I mean, like, what more can a guy want that just wants to ride his bike? You're going to pay me to ride your half pipe? Are you crazy? I would have done that for free. And you're going to feed me?
No brainer, right?
Yeah, no brainer. So one of our first shows, I was still in high school. She brought us to the Cow Palace in San Francisco. And we did a show with, do you know who Doug DeMocus is? Doug DeMocus was the wheelie king, right? He did these wheelies around the stadium. And
Motocross, right?
Motocross, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is literally where I learned the part of showmanship. During the rehearsal, Doug DeMocus would be doing these wheelies, and he'd never put the front end down. He's got this little battery operated motor on the front wheel to keep it spinning and keep the gyro up, and he'd do the wheelie around the whole stadium, up and over this car, landing it and going around, and keep doing it. He did this, I don't know, 5 or 6 times and never once put the front wheel down. Then we went out and practiced, and we had fun and doing whatever. But during the show, he goes out and he does this wheelie around the stadium, and then he goes to go up and over the car, and he drops the front end like, oh, I've never done that before. And the crowd goes, ooh. He goes, one more time. And he goes around, does the wheelie, and goes up and drops the front wheel again. Ooh. Big one more time. And he goes around and he does it and he lands it perfect. And I'm going, he did that on purpose. He got a bigger response for trying it 2 more times and then pulling it the last time, because if he would have done it the first time, it would have been a no-brainer, a no biggie. No, I mean, like, he did a wheelie. But after trying it, making mistakes and making it look hard, he actually made a better show. So that's where entertainment.
That's incredible, man.
That is so funny, because I'm pretty sure, like, so Eddie, I saw a show of yours, when I was a kid. I was able to go and GT came to somewhere. I lived up in Northern California, and so I remember seeing, like, it's so funny you said that, dude, because it was like you were gonna go do something like at the time it was like a 360 or a 540 or something, and you were going at the ramp and then you pull away and you're just like, I don't know. And you're talking, I think Brian maybe was the announcer at the time or something. And, he's like, Eddie, are you going to do it? Is everything okay? And you're like, I don't know. And then you came back and then you ran at the ramp again, maybe pulled off. And then we're just like, man, is he going to be able to do it? And then all of a sudden the third time, boom, 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 boom. And then we all went nuts. And
right.
So it's hilarious to hear that part of it was like what you had picked up earlier,
Yeah. So literally learned this through one of Gail Webb's shows, and then through Gail Webb's shows, I rode with Tony Hawk and Billy Ruff and Neil Blender and all these skateboarder pros, and even some of the guys that are out now. Sean White started in Gail Webb shows, but doing these shows in Knott's Berry Farm and doing it in huge arenas and things like that, we felt like rock stars. I mean, talk about being able to be on top of the ramp and literally, oh yeah, I think I'll go out with that one there, and we just had it, everything, and also to ride my bike and getting paid and living the dream.
Yeah, for sure. A matter of fact, I was watching a video recently of you and Martin doing like a street show where there was a crowd around you, and you were going to bunny hop Martin Aparijo. And Martin lays down and you do the same thing, man. You roll up to him. Oh, man. He goes, no, jump over me. And so you jumped off the bike and jumped over him. Then the second one, he's getting frustrated. He lays back down. Then Eddie, after Martin goes, no, jump over me with the bike. So then Eddie gets off and grabs the bike and then jumps over him, right? The bike's up in the air. No, that's not it. And so the crowd's like, yeah, come on. This kid's like this. There's a kid in the crowd going, you got to jump over them with your bike while you're riding it. Oh, is that it? Okay. So Eddie goes down, does a turnaround and comes, and then bunny hops over Martin. And that was the buildup. And that
Yes.
made it so cool. You know, do you remember that, Eddie? Or
Oh, that part of the show, I mean, it's instilled in us, and we do it all the time. I mean, anytime we have an opportunity to do that trick, and sure, there's guys that have seen it before, but there's kids who haven't, and it's just it's a crowd pleaser. And we're, like I said, you know, you go to a band and they're going to play the same song, you're going to hear it again, but it's just as great as the first time you heard it.
absolutely, man.
And is that the show too that they did like the, hey, have you guys seen Rad? And then they play the music. Is that the one that you talked about, Craig?
Yeah. At the end, there was an announcer. He's like, hey, have you guys seen the movie Rad? And they play the intro to Rad or one of the songs. And then you guys go in you're doing tricks and individual stuff. And it's just so cool. I mean, to see you back when I was a kid and to know how, you know, hard you rode and the tricks were just, they weren't something that you go, oh, that's a 20-year-old trick. These were coming right out of the creative minds of Eddie Fiola. And to see them still done today to the level that they're done to today.
Yeah.
It's amazing for guys like me. I mean, I'm like, I'm still trying to do stuff I was doing at 14 years old, at 47. And here's Eddie. He pulls it off without a hitch, but you know, there's a little,
but I've been doing
between
it
Eddie and me,
you know, and over and over and over. And I don't necessarily do any new school tricks. I just keep doing the same old trick. But the funny thing is I'll go to the skate park and there'll be a bunch of new kids and they've never seen me or seen me ride. And I'll do a backwards nose wheelie off a ramp. And it's something I've done back in the early 80s, but they've never seen it. And plus I have brakes, so they don't, no way are they going to try it. So I say my tricks are so old, they look new.
That's funny.
come full circle.
Well,
yeah,
that brings up a great point too, Eddie, because like, you know, Craig and I, you know, our audience is typically old school guys like he and I, that have just recently found, you know, big bikes like the 26, the 22, 24, 26, 29er bikes, and realize like, hey, you're not a BMX orphan anymore. And, you know, it's so funny to see, because Craig and I talk about the flatland resurgence, because I'll go out and ride I have a 27.5 PK Ripper. Yep. And I'll go out and do, you know, endo, like I just did an endo tutorial or tail whips or lawnmowers. And I just like, we all just saw you doing front wheel, like squeakers on it looks like, I think it was a monster quad or something. And it looked like it was a Huntington.
Oh yeah, that's Huntington. And actually I'm going to say that wasn't me. That was Martin at that point in time. Somebody put the wrong names underneath, but yeah, still Martin doing it and tearing it up. I'm doing wheelies on that bike. I'm riding my 26-inch dirt jumper at the skate park all the time.
Yeah, I think I just saw a picture of you doing like an air out, you know, on that. So first of all, props to you that you can just jump on any size bike and still do amazing things. But you know, looking at you know, with what you're doing, you know, what is your take on the big bikes? Like you have a company that's making, like you were making the 22s for a while, right?
I didn't make a 22. I had a company that was giving me a 22 and I was promoting it. And that was pretty much it. But then I went to the 26-inch dirt jumper. I was riding a black market and I loved it and thought, oh, well, if I can make this look like an old performer, even with this, you know, the double top section of it, not that you're going to stand on it, but it looks like an old bike. And the bottom bend of the performer bend actually works out with the triple the suspension fork, and it slides underneath. I think, yeah, I got a bike here somewhere, but yeah, it works out and it looks good and it rides well. It just feels like a big BMX bike.
So Eddie, the GT Pro Performer is probably one of the most recognizable frames in BMX freestyle history, if you want to say it like that. How much input did you have in designing that frame? Or you know, did you create that, or was your input part of the design process?
So it was an input between Bob Morales and myself. So Bob Morales was riding a torquer at that point in time where he had the double top tubes. And, you know, GT, when we started riding GTs, their freestyle bike wasn't a freestyle bike. It was the Mach 1. And that's what we used in the very beginning. When we first gotten sponsored by GT, we rode the Mach 1 or the Interceptor. And then Bob Morales said, hey, can we do a double top tube or someplace I can stick my feet? And I wanted to be able to do bar spins where I can turn the handlebars. And I suggested this bend for the Pro Performer. And so I could spin the bars around so the front brakes would go underneath. Because if you had a straight angle that came down, that MX-1000, one lever or one section of the brake would hit. And so what I noticed was on the red line where the bottom tube went to the top tube, and then they had the gusset that came out, that gave that flat area like where we have the bend, but it gave that flat area to where the handlebars would spin, and it was perfect. So we mentioned this to Gary, and that bottom tube, we said, hey, you know, we'd like to do this. And he said, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm going, well, I rode a Schwinn Stingray that had 2 bends, and I never broke that. And so he goes, I'll make it. You try it. But if it breaks, your fault.
Nice.
And the rest was history, right? Like,
and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And literally, so here's the story on my bikes is that, you know, GT literally stopped after they sold the company. You know, they stopped making the Performer, or actually they stopped making the Performer that looked like the Performer. It's all straight lines and stuff like that, which every bike looked the same. And since they stopped making this iconic look, I decided, hey, I'm going to make a bike that looks iconic, that looks like an old GT Performer, but I want all new school angles. I want up to date, because there's a reason there's a new angle, because it works better. But I'll call it the Proformer instead of the Performer. And so anyhow, and the other thing is that I had this made by a guy that lived in or worked in Santa Ana, which GT originated in Santa Ana. We went and used the same steel, the same chromoly that GT used back in the day, from a Webco steel. And so that's the same company that GT used. So the same steel in the same city. Then the guy that welded it together was Johnny True Torch, or Johnny Severance, and he used to work for GT. All right, so now I've got 3 things. And then the same box company that GT used, I had them make my box. The same sticker company they used, I had them make my stickers. The same powder coat company, which is Olympic powder coating, that's it. Anyhow, I had them paint the bike. So other than Gary Turner himself touching the bike or owning the building, that's more of a GT than GT is today. Well, not Gary Turner GT, but the corporate GT. So anyhow, and then I got a letter saying that, because I only made 250 of them that were the Pro Performers. And they sent me a letter, and they said, hey, as long as you don't make any more, we're good with that, but we're going to put a limit on you only making 250, because Pro Performer and Performer sound a lot alike. And I go, okay. But then I went to Bill Ryan, and he says, yeah, nobody has a patent on a bicycle, right? So, but you're going to have to change the name, something different. So I took my sticker and I cut it and I put it on the other sides. So then it's a Former Pro. Doesn't sound anything like Pro Performer.
Let me go back a little bit to Bob Morales, somewhere around, because I heard a story from John, and I want you to touch on this a little bit. Somewhere around 82-ish, Bob moves to Haro, or he's already at Haro, but he's at Haro first, right? And Bob helps you get onto the Haro team. Is
correct?
Is that right? Am I accurate?
Well, here's the thing: is that, you know, sure Bob Morales was there, and I was getting in the magazines, and I was doing a couple things. My first couple pictures, I'm on a quad angle. I'm in BMX Action. Bob Haro is literally coming out with his new freestyle frame, his first freestyle frame that they, you know, that's all he was going to make. Well, he heard that I was going to be in the magazines. I have a magazine photo session. So being the smart guy that he is, he calls me up and says, hey, I want to sponsor you. I want to give you a uniform. I want to give you a bike. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I get a full 6-page spread of all these pictures in the magazines with me and Haro gear and this and that. And, you know, back in the day, I don't know if you know this, but it's $3,000 for a color ad. So if he gave me all this stuff for nothing and I got 6 pages in the magazine, he just got 6 pages for nothing. And so he got his advertisement for dirt cheap, literally. So like a day later, I get a phone call from Bob saying, hey, you know, that's the only bike we have, and we're going to do some more photos for a photo session, and I'm going to need that bike back. You'll get it back, but I'm going to need that bike back. Never saw it.
John said, he goes, you know, Eddie rode for Haro, and he rode for Haro for 23 hours.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Literally, he goes, yeah, 23 hours. I go, not 24. He goes, no, 23.
Yep.
So that was, I was like, I got to ask Eddie about this. I want to hear about
100%.
When that 23 hours is up, did you go with Bob Morales over to Kuahara after that? And then what was behind that move? Because I heard that's pretty interesting. Can you touch a little on that?
Yeah, so we went to, you know, everything bicycles was Kuahara, and I'm still in high school. I'm still doing shows, and Bob is doing the sticker company, and he knew Howie Cohen, and he's the owner of Everything Bicycles in Kuahara. So eventually, you know, we got a bike, and we started getting paid, and literally paid $300 a month, you know, to ride a bike, which in, you know, smoking,
yeah,
you know,
that's 82, 83, right?
Right. Yeah. So
I'm money.
like I said, I'm still in high school. And then I go on tour, and I go with a guy, his name is John Hutland, and used to ride for MCS, and then started the Hot Shop. So then we did a tour in Japan for like a month and a half. And we promoted the Kuahara bike that was in ET.
Right. That's what I was hoping you'd say. So Isaac, I don't know if you heard that, but Eddie had a role in the Kuahara ET bike. So there's the connection. So now we're connecting into Hollywood here. You see where I'm going to segue to?
I see where it's going. And the point that, and what's funny, he pointed because I wrote for MCS doing flatland stuff when I was 14. So that's why he was like laughing about that. Like, yeah, that's funny. So let's move on. I want to make like a transition to Rad. Everyone knows your Rad history. I have a couple questions just about like now I love Rad. I think Rad is a fantastic movie. But if I'm being 100% honest, like when I watch Rad, I watch the intro, I watch the credits, I fast forward to the prom, you know, to the lumberyard. Like what was, first of all, like the intro, like where did you guys film that? What was that?
So there's a good story about that one. So the very intro, we were supposed to meet at Wizard Publications, and everyone at Wizard Publications, then we were going to go find a place to film the intro for Rad. That particular day, we just got socked in. It's totally foggy. And one of the directors are going, just all doing this out in the middle of the street. They're going, let's just shoot it here. And that's what we did. We literally shot right in front of Wizard Publications in the fog. And it just turned out. I mean, like they were able to pull focus forward and back and see everybody ride, but not see any of the background.
So that wasn't a fog machine. I always thought there was a fog machine going while you guys were riding to add theatrical.
I thought it was big budget, man. I was like, dude, look at that. They somehow got a full fogged out. That is so funny to hear that story. So, I mean, was Rad one of the first movies you did stunt work on?
It was is definitely the first movie that I got to do my, well, I was doing freestyle. I actually didn't have to do any stunts because everything I did was what I do. 360s out of the swimming pool, bunny hopping on top of trash cans, 180 rollbacks, jumping over fences. None of that to me felt stunty. They, you know, other than when I doubled one of the best friends, Jamie, the best friend of crew, I had to fall off the car when the mom is backing up. I jumped onto the car, rolled off the hood, and onto the ground. So that was my first part of doing stunts. Pat Romano was getting into the stunt work. And during the race scene where you see crew coming around the corner and then gets high-sided and gets launched over, so we changed clothes there because he did the fall. So then when crew is actually riding down the qualifying and he's cheating and he falls over the handlebars and he gets hit by the other two guys, well, that is on accident. That was not meant to be. They just kept it in the movie. So, right, it was just something that they kept in. 90% of the falls in the movie, except for, you know, Mike Miranda, was on accident. So they kept it in there and it all worked out. But yeah, Rad was definitely one of my first venues of movie work. Prior to that, I had done some commercials for Foot Locker, Del Monte, Mountain Dew, a bunch of different things, Levi's, and you know, and I still continued to do commercials. When I got more heavily into doing more stunt work in BMX or freestyle or into the movies, I found out that there wasn't just bicycle work to be done. I needed to learn how to do other things. So I started riding motorcycles and driving cars and started rigging and learning the behind the scenes aspect of it. Of, you know, when somebody gets shot by a shotgun, they get thrown back by a wire. And, you know, I didn't know that until I got into it.
So Eddie, like, okay, so you're already basically a stunt rider. You grow up freestyling and ramps and parks and pools and all that good stuff. So you're already kind of woven yourself into the fabric of stunt work without even knowing it. What was that moment where you're like, you know what, I would like to look into, or I have an opportunity to get into this stunt field and work in movies and on commercials? Like, do you remember that time where you were kind of like the bug bit you and you knew that you wanted to jump into that?
Oh yeah, no, I totally, when the bug hit, it was a commercial wanted me to fall off the bike. And, you know, your whole entire life, you try to stay on it and you try to make it. And when they had me, you know, fall off the bike, it was, I knew I was going to fall. So it wasn't a part of getting hurt. I'm supposed to hit here. I'm supposed to land here. And then that was it. And the good thing was that they paid really well. And then since it was a commercial, there's residuals after it. So I mean, like, I did 1 day of work, but in the long term of it, I mean, I got paid, let's say $500 for the day, but in the long term of the commercial running, I made $5 or $6 grand easily, you know, and it said, hey, this might be the job for me. So I tell a lot of people, I used to get paid to ride my bike. Now I get paid to fall off of it.
That's funny, dude. I love that. Like, we had talked a little bit before this about, and I believe it was for, you showed me a clip for I think it was Clock Stoppers.
Yes.
And one of the questions I have is like watching, okay, so you are an iconic rider. We all grew up and we know your style. And so I like, you can watch anybody that grew up, everyone listening to this podcast. If you see Eddie Fiola pedal a bike, you're like, that's Eddie Fiola. Now, when I watched this clip, I got to be honest with you. I was like, I don't know if the actor watched you or you watched the actor, because the things that I'm used to seeing you do is completely like it, I can't tell, like the head nods and the way you moved your shoulders. Do you get to see him riding that bike beforehand and you have to parrot what he does?
I do, and that's the part where a lot of people don't understand that even though we're stunt people, we are acting like the actors, and we have to look like the actors. We have to make ourselves. I mean, like even in Rad, I doubled the girl in that, and I had to ride. I'm not saying all women ride stiff, but I had to ride the way she was riding, and I tried to tone it down and ride differently than what I normally do. Otherwise, it would look like a guy riding her bike. Yeah, I was able to watch him ride, and Jesse Bradford, I think, is the actor, and it turned out well. But some of these things, when there's a scene where I'm riding on top of a countertop and things are flying left and right. Well, during rehearsal, I get to ride my bike and I just jump on top and they go, okay, that looks awesome. Now put this backpack on. Wait, you didn't say anything about a backpack. So I put the backpack on and I do it again. I'm going to have to test this out, make sure I can do it. So I do it again. They go, okay, that's great. Then they start throwing stuff on top of the counter. I go, wait a second. This is all part of the thing. All right, let's try it then. And it all works out. But doing the stunt work is sometimes not as easy as it looks. And there's a lot of stuff that they just throw at you at the last minute.
Yeah, that's kind of like how your writing went throughout the years of competitions, making it look easier than it actually was, and like you said earlier, it's not just bikes. You're doing falls, motorcycles, you're full on stunt work. And that's pretty incredible. Do you find, or have you found that, from riding in competitions or your BMX career till throughout your stunt career, which one are you more afraid of, like as far as your safety or getting hurt? Have you got more injuries from stunt work than you did from falls and spills on the bike, or is it?
The hard part is that, like when you're riding BMX and you're doing a show or you're riding at the skate park, you don't know if you're going to fall or not. So, I mean, it's all of a sudden you're on the ground and you're blacked out and you don't know what's going on. Where doing the stunt work, normally 99% of the time, you know where you're going to fall. I had to do a scene for Sons of Anarchy, and I'm one of the Mayan gang, and so I'm on this Harley, and the stunt coordinator chooses certain guys to do certain falls, and he says those two guys, you're going to get shot, and then you're going to lay it down and skid and side, and then he points at me and he says you're going to get shot in the chest, and then you're going to fly off the back of the bike. I go, okay, right. Do we know what speed we're doing this at? And he says, well, I'd like to see it at speed. I'd like, because the camera's going to be stationary and we want to see this. He says, well, I'd like to see around 40. Again, I go, can we do a dry run and see what 40 looks like? And he says, sure, let's just do a dry run. We'll go at speed and we'll see. And we have marks set up to where I'm looking at the mark and I'm looking at the speedometer. And I'm looking at the mark and I'm going, I have to jump off now. And I'm just psyching myself out. And it's the worst thing ever. So they tied a bungee cord around the fork tube to the bike. So I'm actually, because once I let go, the bike's gonna go straight. Well, with the bungee cord on it, it tweaks the bike so it falls and it doesn't go straight and it doesn't ghost ride somewhere. But so there's a trick doing a speed stunt or a high fall, and the trick is if we have to do it at 40, then I'll go out and ride the bike at 80 and then drop it down to 40, and it feels like I could just walk off of this thing. So anyhow, I got shot. I'm doing 40, got shot in the chest, fell off the bike. I have cars behind me skidding and sliding, and I can't flinch or I'll ruin the shot. And everything turned out really well. I don't remember hitting the ground, but it all worked out. And it's one of the season finales of Sons of Anarchy. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And you probably don't want to have to ruin the shot and do it again where you're already like,
Definitely not.
dude, yeah, I don't want to
Yeah.
do this again.
Yeah. But
Better-
so again, so I did another shot. I did another scene on a movie called Stick It. And it's a gymnastic movie. And the first 5 minutes of this movie is BMX and skateboarding. And we had Scotty Kramer was there doing stunts. They wanted him to do a backflip, double tail whip, 360, and land in a swimming pool. Well, he did everything but landed in boxes. Then they took the boxes out and he did a big air and then came down. Then they wanted a backflip. Well, Scotty was done doing whatever he needed to do, so they used Mike Escamilla. And Mike Escamilla, rooftop, comes out of the swimming pool and does a backflip, lands, and then he has to break through this plate glass window. Now, this plate glass window is literally tempered glass. It's real glass, and they have these little explosions at the bottom of the screen, or at the bottom of the window. And when they hit these things, it goes opaque and it goes into these little squares, and then you're able to go right through it. The problem is that the guy on the button and Mike going through the window, Mike's first time was at different times. So literally, it was like Wile E. Coyote. Mike hit this window and just splatted, and then just slid straight down. And they go, oop, it didn't go off. So then Mike's scared, gun shy. So then he cranks over and jumps through the window, but he gets all small. And again, a Wile E. Coyote outline shape of him going through. And they go, no, we want the whole thing to crash down. So he had to do it a third time. And now he's gun shy in this window. And anyhow, so Mike goes through the window, he lands, and it turned out good. But then Mike during rehearsals, Mike couldn't make it over the pads that were the same height as the bar, like the liquor bar inside the house. And then the stunt coordinator had me to do it, asked me to do it, and I could make it. I've done that stunt before on a different deal. So Mike and I swapped clothes. I got in the scene, and I did a header where I hit the bike in the front of the bar and flew off the bike, but landed 17 feet away from the bar and landed on the ground. I broke my heel doing it, but I also got nominated in the World Stunt Awards. The World Stunt Awards is called the Taurus Awards, and it's kind of like the Emmys or the Academy Awards for stunts. And so I got nominated. Of all the movies I think it was in 2007, of all the movies in 2007, I got nominated in this stunt for the hardest hit. I didn't try out for it, but I got nominated.
You're just like you're the pickup guy. That's funny. And I got to tell you, I respect so much that stunt work, because Craig, you don't even know the story, but I accidentally did a stunt in a movie because my roommate at the time was in a movie. And long story, my roommate was a UFC fighter. We were going to get something to eat, and he goes, we're in Bakersfield, and he goes, hey, and he's Russian, and his name's Oleg Tiktarov. He's a UFC champion back in the day. And he goes, hey man, let's go eat we'll go get something to eat, because we just did a wrestling demo all day, like a Sambo jiu-jitsu wrestling thing all day. So we drive to Lacey Street Studios. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Eddie.
I know exactly where it's at.
Yep. And so we drove out there. I have no idea, from Bakersfield. And I was just like, I'm thinking we're going to Taco Bell from Bakersfield. So we drive all the way into LA. We get there, and he ditches me in Lacey Street Studios. And I'm sitting there eating, and I think I'm 23, 24 at the time. And I just want to eat a burrito. And I'm like, they know I'm not in this movie. I feel like I'm a fish out of water. And the guy, this guy, the stunt coordinator, comes over to me. I don't know him at the time. And he goes, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm here with my friend Oleg, and I'm just eating this burrito. I'll pay for it, And he's like, he goes, so you're a fighter? I was like, no, I just hang out with him. I'm his roommate. And he goes, he goes, cool. He goes, you want to be in the movie? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he goes, are you in SAG? And I was like, what? And he goes, perfect. Right. So,
Not union gig.
right. So the next thing I know, like they're setting me up and they have candy glass. And this is what triggered me to think of this is when you were just talking about that. And the guy that I'm supposed to fight in this movie hits me with a bottle. He goes, yeah, it's nothing. It's glass. It's sugar glass. It's just going to break and you won't feel it. I was like, that's fantastic. This is fun. And so it comes time to do the stunt. And the first thing he tells me is, when you fall backwards, that's rented neon. So don't hit that. And I was like, yeah, no problem. He's like, because I don't want to pay for that. I was like, yeah, cool. But they filled the beer bottle that they were going to hit me with apple juice, because you can't have alcohol in a set apparently. And
Right.
so when I got hit with this bottle, he hit me in the side of the head. Well, now it has weight. And so I got blacked out, and it cut the side of it cut the side of my head. And so the stunt looks really great because I really am bleeding. And I miss every mark that I had practiced with this guy. I get kicked over a table. I don't hit the neon, but they come back and they're like, that was phenomenal. That was great. So it's just funny to hear your story of like how accidents happen and how it just, things pop up. But what I wanted to ask you too, like, so, I've seen you do a lot of just regular stunt work, like has nothing to do with bikes. Like I saw a clip, I believe, of you just like on a high wire, and then you got dropped on a car or something.
Yeah. So I've been shot. I've been beat up. I've been thrown off of buildings. I've done pretty much all the stunts that you could possibly think of, except being set on fire. And now, not only am I doing the stunts, but I'm actually I've coordinated a couple of stunt shows, and I'm doing a lot of rigging. There's a movie out right now called Line of Duty, and it's with Aaron Eckhart, and I get to rig 99% of the stuff that's going on. And when these guys are fighting in the helicopter and they get thrown out of the helicopter, they're 100 feet in the air, and the camera's got a zoom lens, and these guys are falling out, and they are not dying because I've got a wire on them. I have to trust my wire and my ropes and my rigging that they're on. I have to throw these same two guys down an elevator shaft 6 stories and not kill them. And here's the hard part. The hard part is that when the whole stunt is done and over and they splash down and everything's done, the stunt guys get a pat on the back. You did such a great job. What about me? But I know that I knew the job was dangerous and not as exciting as being in front of the camera, but I have fun just the same. And being able to, like, I like to fix things, and being able to think and figure out how to get somebody to free fall 4 stories, then slow down 2 stories and not die at the 1 story is really, really exciting. So
do you still get it with all your schedule, and it sounds pretty involved? I mean, it's your career, and do you still get a chance to ride pipeline or skate park or the skate parks or anything like that, or is that something that's kind of had its moment?
So in the stunt world, there, you either work a lot or you don't work at all, or you work in between things, and I'm in and out. So I don't necessarily like working. I like staying at home and getting checks in the mail and saying I worked. Right. But I just hit up the skate park the other day. If my day is slow and I've got time and it's not 100 degrees outside, I'll go hit up the skate park and do a couple rolls and airs and freak some kids out and come home and have a beer.
What are you riding right now? What's your bike?
So the bike that I'm riding is a 26-inch dirt jumper. It's a former pro. It's made by Supercross. It's part of the Legends Bike Co. company, and it's all chromoly 4130. But I'm riding the skate park, which has a couple bowls. Yes, 4130. A couple bowls, a quarter pipe, some flatland area, So I get to do everything and have fun. So I haven't hit any full pipes lately. When we do go to the Woodward West and usually have the BMX reunion, I'm hitting up the skate park there, hitting up the resi mat and the foam pit and doing everything. So I'm 55 and loving it.
Do you still know, like, when you get recognized, what's that like? When people, because I mean, you've been in the spotlight. You're essentially since you were in high school, right? So, I mean, what's that like for you? Like, do you like maybe movie sets or Because I gotta tell you, like, if I was on a movie set and I'm like, is that Eddie Fiola? That's Eddie Fiola right there. Like, that's got to be pretty incredible.
I've got two stories on that one. So one of the stories is I'm working on, I'm literally working on The Hangover, right? And it has nothing to do with bikes. And the job I got hired for was, it was a near miss. And I was told it was going to be like a 25 to 35 mile an hour near miss. And they're on, in a cop car, and they're driving on the sidewalk, and they're supposed to be speeding down this sidewalk, and they've got all these stunt guys rolling around, and we're all supposed to get out of the way. And from a car that's doing that speed. Well, it turned out to be not 25. It turned out to be 2.5 miles an hour. So we're not even running out of the way. We're walking out of the way. So there's a scene where the actor is talking, and he's talking to the lady. I'm right next to the lady walking by, and I'm getting out of the way. So the funny part is that when I show up on set, I'm nobody. I'm just a stunt guy. I'm just there just like everyone else. But the production assistant, the PA, says, "Hey, your wardrobe's over here, your trailer's over there, and do you ride bikes or something?" I said, "Yeah, I ride a little bit here and there." I go, "Why do you ask?"
I ride a little bit.
Yeah. I go, "Why do you ask?" They go, "Well, one of our actors is a huge fan of yours." I go, "Who is it?" He says, "It's Ed Helms." And at this point in time, I didn't watch The Office, and I didn't watch too much TV, and I didn't know who Ed Helms was at this point in time. And so we're doing this scene, and the cop car, Ed's in it, and they're going back and forth, and they have to reload, they have to change batteries, right, in the camera. And the cop car stops, and I'm over here hanging out with all my stunt guys, and all of a sudden, Ed Helms jumps out of the cop car, runs over to me, and says, "Hey, remember that one trick you do in the beginning of Rad where you sweep your leg around, you come around? I can do that trick." Right. I mean, like, Ed Helms is talking to me, and he's telling me about the movie Rad. And he literally knows from beginning to end of the movie. And he's telling me all this stuff, and it's working out really well, and it's cool. And he says he used to ride, and he used to have a team, and all this there's really cool stuff. So anyhow, I said, myself and a couple other guys were trying to get or buy the rights to the movie Rad because it had never been released. And Ed says, "Well, the director is real personal, close friends with Talia Shire, who owns the movie." And he's pulling the director over. Wait, I'm just a stunt guy, just hanging out with everyone. Now I'm talking to one of the main actors. I'm talking to the director, and we're talking about the movie Rad. And he pulls out his phone, and he starts to call Talia. It's like, "Hey, this guy wants the movie Rad, and give it to him." That's what he's about to do. Literally what he's about to do. And it just kept ringing. She didn't answer the phone. So she wasn't there, and nothing ever happened to it. So that's where my whole Rad story went to crap. We almost came this close to owning it, and nothing. But another one was, do you know who Robbie Williams is?
Is
so
he the singer?
Singer, exactly. So I'm working on a music video. I didn't know who Robbie was, and I don't know anything about what is what, but I'm rigging the stunts, and I'm making sure everything is safe. And it's this float that's supposed to be going downtown LA. It's a boat that looks, it's a boat float, and it's going down in a parade and this, and and I'm working on it. And during all of these, the movies and commercials, there's a list of people that everybody can see that is working that day. It's the contact sheet, right? So, you know, this is the director, this is the person who's in it, and this is the stunt coordinator, and this is the stunt rigger, and all this. So anyhow, I'm working on the set, and I'm working on this boat, and all of a sudden behind me, this guy says, is that Eddie Fiola? Is that the Flying Banana? In his English accent. And I look back, and he says, dude, I used to have a hutch, and I collect hutches, and I do this, and I got married with my hutch bike, and he's a huge, and he's asking me for my autograph. So it's weird. And you know, I didn't think I'd be noticed, you know, in my 50s. But the wife and I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, we're at a restaurant just having breakfast, and this guy kept staring at me. And literally, hey, are you Eddie Fiola? From where? What do you? Yes, I am. So, and I wasn't wearing an Eddie Fiola shirt, and I wasn't wearing a Fiola hat. I was just hanging out.
You know, that's funny because Isaac and I are, you know, we're old BMXers, old school BMXers, and as we get back into bikes, we've gravitated towards the larger BMX bikes, and so have the kids, so have the younger crowds, and they're doing different things. And you know, if you haven't seen them, I'm sure you have. It's a wheelie culture. It's doing all these tricks while their wheels are up, and it's pretty incredible to see these guys creating this new scene, this new movement. Kind of like freestyle was back in the 80s, you know, coming in, it's really getting its steam and feet under it. But as they progress through tricks, as they're doing certain things, they've kind of seems like they have more appetite to learn more. So one of the things, me being 80s BMX Craig on Instagram and having some of these guys on the ride outs and in this big bike culture come to me and go, hey dude, what can we do now? What are some tricks we can learn? I go, all right, here's the deal. I want you to go onto YouTube, and I want you to look up Eddie Fiola, Martin Aparijo, and I give them tricks, right? I say, go watch these guys. Go watch Dennis McCoy and Ron Wilkerson, and I give them the names and the tricks to learn. They come back the next week. Dude, is this the one you're talking about? And they'll do something, a foot jammer into, I don't know, whatever they do. And I go, that's it, man. Where'd you see that? Oh, I looked up that Eddie Viola guy, and I saw him doing it. And I go, oh, Eddie Fiola. Yeah, man. He's like one of the best that have ever done it. And they go, can I learn more? Can I do more from him? I go, yeah, man, look it up. So it's fun. You know, you say someone in you're 54 and you don't get recognized, but these kids are now going, hey man, I watched Eddie do this and he did this. And they're incorporating that into today's modern movement or culture of riding bikes. That to me is probably one of the most gratifying things that I'm a part of, is seeing them bring it around full circle and bring it back into the mix. It's so cool.
No, I get it. I love it. I just last week, for the last couple of weeks, there's been a family coming out to Huntington Beach, and they're bringing their daughters and their sons, and they have one son that's, I don't know, 11 or 12, and they have another son that's 4 or 5, and you know, he's on an old school Haro, and he, you know, he's doing wheelies and he's doing some stuff, and I go, hey, try this, and I do a bar spin, and literally within minutes he figures it out and he's doing it. I mean, but he spent the whole day doing the one trick and he's got it down. And I said, okay, when you come back next week, I want you to try this. I'm going to show you now, but when you come home, when you come back, you have a whole week to practice. Show me this trick. He shows up next week. He's doing a bar ride, or not a bar ride, but he's sitting on the handlebars now and he's riding it all the way. So literally the last week I gave him the Freestyling Book 2, the Bible of BMX Freestyle, how-to tricks from day one. And dude, he's reading it from, you know, front to back. And I told his parents, I'm going, look, if he doesn't get good grades, take that book away. take his bike away, make sure he gets good grades. And, I say that now, when I was in school, I could care less, but, thinking about the things I should have learned and the things I learned now, I wish I studied more in school, but, if it helps the kids and the parents being able to train the boys and kids and doing what they do, it's great.
I'm with you. I encourage, if you don't want to be on a big bike doing wheelies, or if that's not your thing, maybe you can find something at the skate park. Ride street, ride skate park, do the pump track. And it doesn't have to be bikes. Get on a skateboard. Go do, as long as you have an outlet.
Yes.
It seems like the consensus has been, and Isaac and I have talked to quite a few folks, getting kids on bikes gives them an outlet, an avenue to get away from the electronics, to have a focus and a drive. I mean, we can go all day about this, right, Isaac? Because gaming is huge, computers are huge. And it seems like, obviously, when Isaac and I and you, Eddie, when we were kids, we just didn't have the alternative of doing that. So it was like Saturday mornings or after school when you got home or whatever, it was like, do your homework and then go outside. My mom was like, go outside and play, and that gave me the outlet. But nowadays kids, if they do their homework, I'm not generalizing. Well, maybe I am. It's like, it's like, come on, let's go. You have to almost grip the controller out of their hand and give them something to get into, some type of activity.
Right. No, I see it. I definitely see it, and my daughter is, nothing against my daughter, but she'll have friends over. She'll have 2 or 3 friends over, and they're all sitting in the front room, all on their phones.
Right.
I go, why did you invite your friends over if you're all on your phones? Makes no sense. But anyhow, she's into cheer, and she's doing what they call stunts in cheer. And so she's getting gymnastics and all that stuff. But I remember the same thing, is that when my parents were there and we left the house in the morning, we didn't come back until the streetlights were on. But you can't do that today with our kids. We've already become helicopter parents, where I know where she's at. I've got an app. I know where she's at. There's no way. I don't understand how my mom let us be gone for so long, for so many hours, but there wasn't the culture that there is today, or we didn't know about it. And like I rode to the beach. I was, 25 miles away from home at 14, 15 years old, riding my bike. Did my parents know? No. But there's no way in hell I'm letting my daughter do that.
Not at all.
I mean,
I tell a story like this. Like in today's culture, like I think we all have this story, because Eddie, I had the same thing. My mom was working. I knew that I would leave, and then as long as I was home before the lights were on, everything was good. And I could have ridden my bike to 3 different cities, and as long as I was back in time, it was cool. But the difference in society, like, think about this. Like right now, if there was a kid riding by and he stopped at my water hose to get a drink of water, I would like, what is going on right now? Like, who are you? What are you doing at my house? But when we were kids, it was common. Like, you could stop at anyone's house and drink the water from their hose, and just
the warm water, the rubbery taste, and we did it.
Like Eddie said, Isaac, isn't the universal get in the house time the street lights coming on? I haven't talked to one person that doesn't say like, yeah, I had to be in the house when the street lights came on. It was just the universal come in the house. But what a crazy thing, like, to talk about how the culture and society is today versus what, when we were kids. It's totally different. But then again, the internet has been able to allow us to communicate all these fears and all these, like, issues that could arise. But when we were kids, like you said, get on the bike first thing in the morning, go gather your crew, ride to your spot all day long, maybe grab a soda and a snack or something. And then, we got to go. The sun's about to go down,
Right. So this reminds me of a thing that says, Dogtown and Z-Boys, right? Great documentary. The difference between BMX freestyle and skateboarding is that skateboarders had friends who didn't skateboard, right? But those friends sometimes had cameras or high 8 cameras or 16 and or film or just pictures where they would get all this great footage. If you're on a bike and you're riding BMX, you're either riding or you're not riding. You're either in the group or you're not in the group. You're either going somewhere or you're not going somewhere, because we went places fast and we rode. Nobody brought a camera with them. I don't have any epic footage of us trying things out back in the day. So I wish we could have a documentary like that, but we don't have any old footage like Dogtown and Z-Boys, and I wish we did. I just wish if I had to do anything over again, that would be the only thing different. I would document everything.
Yeah, a camera wouldn't last. I mean, it just absolutely wouldn't last. And plus, one of those big giant Kodaks with the ice cube flash on the top in your back pocket while you're riding, bail, I mean, it's not even going to last.
Nobody had a camera when I was growing up. I remember and I can only imagine what it was like for you guys. I mean, it had to have been something like, hey, Wendy's calling, and we know we're going to do a photo shoot at this time. And so, hey, be there. But man, for us, I mean, I remember, I think I did 2 photo shoots. One is when I got sponsored by MCS, because I had to, they were like, hey, I need some product photos. And they told me what they needed. And I remember, my mom knew a dude that had a 35 millimeter camera. And so I have one picture of me doing a trick on in leathers in front of a cool background. But man, that was it, dude. Nobody had cameras or video camera. No. Nobody had anything like that. So, Eddie, we're coming to the, we've been talking for a long time. We're kind of coming to the end of this. We really appreciate you coming out, spending your evening with us, with Craig and I. Please thank your family, and hats off to you. I mean, to have a daughter that's doing those stunts and cheer. I've watched those documentaries. I watched the show on Netflix where they're chucking those girls 38 feet in the air. And I don't know how you're able to watch that, because I am the helicopter parent. Even though I grew up doing freestyle, I'm over here my guys, when they're riding their bikes, I'm like, helmet, pads, don't let go of the handlebars. I don't know how I got from freestyle to where I am now, but maybe it's
I don't know
because
how my mom did it. I literally, I mean, watching me, I'm I was in the hospital every other month. The bone guy, I don't know what you call him. They would know me by first name and oh, you're back. You're broken leg. Okay. Broken arm. Okay. Broken finger, toe, things like that. One time I actually went in with a broken leg, and 6 weeks later, I went to go get the cast off. Well, not telling my mom that I have been riding with the cast, and I fell again, and I hurt my wrist. So when I went to the doctors to get the cast off my leg, I asked them to x-ray my arm, and lo and behold, it's broken. So I come out with the cast off my leg, but a cast on my arm. So
just traded. One thing that reminded me of one thing, the skate parks that we ride today, I mean, they're professionally designed. They're amazing. Del Mar, how sketchy was that back in the day? I've heard stories that it was oververt, undervert, it was just the sketchiest place to ride.
So that the half pipe kind of waved down the whole thing, and it was all on an incline or decline, and it all went downhill. And so riding, and this is where you learned how to ride left and right. You do airs both ways, because it just kept going. You keep going down the run. But yeah, nothing. You had to pick out your marks and certain lights that you knew that this was a good air spot. This is a good air spot, where there'd be sections that were undervert and you would hang your sprocket. It took a little bit of getting used to, but and then, by riding with GT and doing so many different shows and going around the world, not everybody understands what a quarter pipe actually looks like. And I've ridden some really, really bad things, and trying to be the professional that I am and being the person that GT wants me to be, hey, I'll ride whatever you got. I'm okay. it's a 2x4 ramp that's literally 2x4s, no trans. I mean, it's just the sketchiest first, BMX action trick ramp. It's really bad, but you ride it. When you tell somebody, I want it to just go to vert. Well, now it's 9 feet and 2 feet of vert. But you ride it and you do the best you can. But it's different, and you just work at it. And that, I think that's what made the first group of guys riding more applicable, that could ride everything, where these guys are spoiled because the transitions are so smooth and everything's perfectly done and calculated out. Now take it, everything that they're doing is big and hard. I don't know if that sounded right. Anyhow, they're going high, and I give every one of those guys props to doing what they do.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I look at some of those little quarter pipes from like the AFA, ramp contests. And Craig, you've seen them. They're like 3 feet wide, and so you've got Eddie like riding.
No, they had to be. I mean, they're rolling them out of a van, or not a van, but a trailer that converts. When they came and do demos, the trailer, I mean, they're pulling out these things and you're going, there's no way.
There's no carve. It's like you literally have to be perfect up and straight back down, or you're going to miss the ramp completely.
Vans, when I did shows for Vans, they had their half pipe that literally folded out, and it was no flat bottom. It was completely half pipe, no platforms, nothing. And we did shows, Michael and I and Brian, everybody rode this same plexiglass half pipe that we busted out good size air on something that had no flat bottom whatsoever. But that's what we rode, and that's what they gave us, and we dealt with it. So
that's just amazing. I mean, it's a testament to the professionalism that you all had. Just like, we'll make it work by any means necessary. And I think that plays heavily into what you do now. Like, your solution, your job literally is like, I can find a solution to whatever you need me to do. And I think
there are no problems, just solutions.
100%. I mean, I think that's a lesson for these kids today is I tell people, like, wear a helmet, because by doing tricks on bikes and doing something over and over, the repetitiveness of it is teaching you the fundamentals that you'll learn to exploit later on in your life. That yes, I can overcome this. That yes, I can fail and still accomplish this. I've just learned how to not do it 1,000 times in a parking lot or at a skate park or anything like that. So, I mean, I think the lessons that we all learn in BMX and skateboarding, and I mean, and even in stunts, I mean, the things that you can accomplish now because you've done all these things, and the skills that you have on all these different size bikes is just incredible. And the things that you can accomplish, I mean, the sky's the limit to what your career is going to be, just by the what you've grown up with. I guess I'll end my last question on this. Where do you see yourself in the stunt world in the next, say, 5-10 years?
Ooh, good question. Well, I am 55 right now, and I get to retire when I'm 65, which doesn't make any sense because the stunt people don't get an early retirement. So they say we have to hit the ground until we're 65. So luckily enough that the jobs that I do, they're far and few between, and they're fun, and they pay well. So they pay residual. So I could work one month and not work the next, and still get money and survive. Where I see myself more or less coordinating more stunts, possibly rigging more stunts, but eventually just hanging out and riding. That's what I'd like to do, just and maybe even do like a grassroots tour, and just go see. And this is what we've been doing a little bit. Martin, myself, and Bill Allen. We went to Australia. We went to England. We went to Wichita, and we're doing things. And we're signing autographs and we're talking to people and we're doing more or less live interviews and people are asking questions, and it's great that people come up and they have questions that we've never heard before, and young kids are coming up and saying, hey, I've watched your video on YouTube and love this trick and this trick, and so the younger crowd of the older crowd is learning what we've done, and it's great, but to see myself in 10 years, I'm still riding my bike.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I still see Judo Gene LaBelle, a famous stunt guy. He's still out there just dominating. So, hats off to you, Eddie. I look forward to seeing more. Craig, take us out, brother. What's your last one?
Eddie, first of all, thank you for being on the show with us today. It's been such a pleasure and such an honor to have you here. One of the things that, excuse me, Isaac and I talk about being in the culture that we are, is that the younger crowd today, it seems like there's a focus on sponsorship. They want to know how they can progress. There's really not an AFA organization or something that's like structured for them to compete in or to gauge their skill level or where they're at in the whole thing, right? So their thing is sponsorships. What advice could you give the younger crowd, especially the ones that are going to listen to our show, that really have a good skill set, but there's not so much of that structure that they can strive for moving forward? Like what should their focus be? What would you recommend that they pay attention to and try to strive to do? Because we always say, have fun, make sure it's fun. If you're not having fun, it's going to show, right?
From that sticker set and send it to Mindy.
All right. So I literally spoke to a friend of mine, Bill Ryan, about this. Is that back in the day we had magazines and we were able to figure out how we could paid, and then if we're in the magazines, then they would pay us, and they wouldn't have to pay the for the ad. But now there's no magazines, and the only way to get recognition is now on the internet, and you're doing YouTube videos or you're having subscribers and things like that. But you have to learn the basics, learn the basic tricks, the simple tricks, and make it look effortless and smooth, and make it look like you haven't been practicing, that it's something that it just flies out of your mouth. It just works out and it's smooth. I mean, like and the best thing is like freestyle, is that you can do wheelies right out in front. You don't have to go to a track. You don't have to go to any motocross park. You can go anywhere at any time and do these things just like freestyle. And I think that's what made freestyle so big, so quick, is that it, you could be anywhere and do this thing. So what I tell these kids, well, what I would say is that you got to find competitions and find out where they're holding a competition at. You have to enter. You have to at least try and do well. It's okay not to win, but then it's also okay to watch other people and see how they do. And just like you said, have fun. If you're not having fun, don't do it. So
100%, man. I totally agree. Thank you, Eddie.
And study Eddie's charisma and study his showmanship. Learn how to work the crowd. If you take nothing away from this, if you're a current rider, go watch Eddie Fiola videos. And every time he rides, he puts on a clinic. Watch him spin the bars, and it's just fantastic. So, Eddie, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate it, and all of the history that you've given us, and what you still give back to the sport, still hanging out with fans and having a great time. We appreciate it all.
No worries. Well, thanks for having me on. If you guys have any other questions or you think of anything else, I'd love to do these interviews. This is awesome.
Absolutely. So you can find Eddie on Instagram. It's Eddie Fiola. You can find him at Legends Bike Co. You can grab one of those amazing bikes. If you want to look at if you want to see some, I'll be honest with you, like this is a huge plug. If you want to see, again, like I keep saying the word clinic, but you want to see a clinic in craftsmanship, go look at the way that his bikes are made and the intricate details that are in there. Look on the back of the seat post mass where you used to see a GT stamp, and you'll see Eddie's initials in there. You'll see the dropouts. Everything is absolutely pristine. You want to get a fun bike to ride? Go look at those Legends bike, the Legends Bike Company bikes. Those are phenomenal, Eddie. And just the throwback and the detail that you threw at us as former riders, to give us the opportunity to have a quality bike that's a current geometry and still gives us that you know, I don't know what it's like, warm fuzzies. Like you put your foot over that seat tube or that top tube and you see that bike that you remembered, but you know that it's current and that it's going to last and it's going to handle the way that you want it to. And I had no idea that it was all the Santa Ana, all those ties to the original GTs. That's phenomenal, Eddie. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
That's the original bike. Now the bikes are all made through Supercross, and but just even better, better welds, better this, better that, double butted chromoly, lighter. I've got 9% on my battery. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah.
It's about to die. So I love doing this interview, and thank you so much for anything that you want to say about my company or about, the Legends Bike Co. And thank you.
Yep.
Just want to say to everyone, and first and foremost, thank you, Eddie, our special guest, super special guest, Eddie Fiola. And if you guys have enjoyed this as much as we have, please like and subscribe. Hit that little subscribe button there on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify,
is it over there? Over there.
It could be here. Could be here. But go ahead and hit that like button. Let us know. Reach out in the comments. Let us know if you how much you like this, and give us that support so we can continue to get amazing guests like Eddie moving forward. We'd love to hear from you, and appreciate all of you for listening and stopping by here to hang out with us and Eddie. It's been an amazing time.
Thank you so much.